Coming up.
Who suggested that bank accounts should be seized?
Because the ability to freeze an account is
Minister, if I freeze your account during 3 days, perhaps you will say that it's a seizure.
Are you the one who came up with the idea that the Emergencies Act be invoked? Was it your idea? I understand that you spoke with the chief of the Ottawa Police Services and you discussed all the topics you presented, and you did not have any discussion about his plan. It's incredible. I have difficulty believing you.
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Your colleague from Public Safety told us that the Emergencies Act was invoked following advice from law enforcement. Were you the witness of any advice from law enforcement asking for the implementation of the Emergencies Act?
Quite frankly, I would have been quite surprised if the police had actually made a policy recommendation or asked for any legislative authority. My conversations with law enforcement, and I had a number directly with them, was to ask about the challenges that they were facing and how, there were issues of resource, but they were unable to effect their lawful purpose.
C'est toujours l'histoire des remorqueuses.
Still about the tow trucks. They were not able to remove the tow away the trucks.
Good example. I asked the chief here, but I also asked the RCMP why they weren't, tagging and towing those vehicles. In my experience, that's a very common thing for the police to do, and they would do it in other jurisdictions. But the chief of Ottawa expressed to me what I believe to be a sincere concern that to do so would have been provocative, potentially leading to violence. And he also expressed very sincere concern that it would be unsafe for his officers to enforce those laws.
How did the act allow the trucks to be removed from Ottawa? What additional power was contained in the Order or Emergencies Act that allowed that those trucks could be removed? Because pursuant to the current law, without the Emergencies Act, the police could compel a tow truck owner to do something. If not, they could go to court using the criminal code. The criminal code provides that could be compelled according to the criminal code. So what did the Emergencies Act change?
Police services in every jurisdiction across the country have contracts with tow truck companies. They don't own the tow trucks themselves in the vast majority of jurisdictions. They have contracts. And part of those contracts is those companies have the types of vehicles that are required to remove big tractor trailers. And unfortunately, in every jurisdiction, I have a letter here which I'll share. I brought copies of it that I received, for example, from my ministerial counterpart in Alberta, Mr. Minister McIver, in which he said, and I think very importantly, actually I'll be able to read it to you a little bit here. He said that despite our best efforts to resolve this ongoing issue, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have exhausted all local and regional options to alleviate the week-long service disruptions at this important international border. And so they were asking for help.
Okay, donc si vous n'êtes pas au courant.
So if you are not aware that law enforcement gave advice that the Emergencies Act should be used, who advised the government to use the Emergencies Act?
Sir, the police did not advise me that the Emergencies Act should be used. The police were very clear about the challenges they face. Good, sir. There were a number of discussions among colleagues. I will tell you, based on the conversations that I'd had with the challenges that learned about the challenges that law enforcement was having, I did not sort of.
Are you the one who came up with the idea that the Emergencies Act be invoked? Was it your idea?
Quite frankly, and I will acknowledge to you, I wasn't suggesting the Emergency Act be invoked. I believed that it was necessary for us to examine all of the legal options that were available to us to determine whether or not the emergency that existed met the legal threshold. I thought that was an important thing to examine, and to look at were there authorities that currently were not available in any existing law in Canada to assist the police, and were those measures available to us? And it was also an important consideration, would they be effective in helping to bring about a peaceful resolution of this incident?
Et qui vous a suggéré?
Who suggested that bank accounts should be seized?
I have no recollection of that recommendation. And can I make just, it's an issue of semantics, but there was no recommendation that there should be a seizure. Froze is it's a very different, it's important clarification, if I may, sir, because the ability to freeze an account is
Minister, if I freeze your account during 3 days, perhaps you will say that it's a seizure.
Well, with great respect, sir, seizure, I think, is well articulated in both criminal and civil law in Canada with respect to forfeiture. That would account for a seizure.
I think
freezing those assets.
Not agree with you, I think.
Well, but respectfully, in law, there's a very significant difference between freezing an asset and seizing an asset, and there are very different legal procedures. There are very important and complicated legal processes.
But I can guarantee you that seizure, when you quand vous gelez un compte de...
When you freeze a bank account, the Supreme Court considers that a seizure.
Thank you, Senator
Mr.
Hart.
Minister, Senator White a while ago talked about the RCMP plan for removing the blockades. On the 12th of February, the Ottawa Police also came up with an opinion saying that all available staff were deployed. They have a plan to put an end to the illegal occupation, and they were waiting for necessary reinforcements. On the 12th of February, the Ottawa Police said they had a plan. Were you informed of that plan?
From open sources, I of course read the media and watch the TV like everyone else, but I had not seen the particulars of a plan. And frankly, the situation that existed here in Ottawa and in other places in Canada required more than just more people. It required the ability to deal with some very difficult issues that they were confronted. I'm sorry?
Avec un plan.
With a plan.
Well, of course.
Okay. Mais vous avez pas...
But you did not talk to the Ottawa Police to find out what their plan was.
And again, Senator, respectfully, that is an operational activity of the police of jurisdiction, and it's not appropriate for me to engage in any.
Est-ce que vous savez que la police d'Ottawa...
Do you know that the Ottawa Police Services removed vehicles on the 10th of February?
There was some, like, very small vehicles, cars.
Non, des camions.
No, trucks.
That were removed.
Des gros camions, là.
Huge trucks.
And removed how, sir? Like, could you clarify that?
La police d'Ottawa...
The Ottawa Police towed away trucks on the 10th of February.
Okay. Donc, vous avez...
So you did not talk to the Ottawa Police Services to find out what their plan was. On the 12th of February, they tell us that they have a plan. On the 10th of February, they were able to tow trucks. On the 14th of February, the blockade at the Ambassador Bridge was lifted. Vehicles were towed. The bridge was open. And the 13th of February at 8:30, you had a cabinet meeting. And you concluded that there was no other means besides adopting the Emergencies Act.
The blockade, for example, at Ambassador Bridge took 7 days to clear. And there was strong indications and evidence that it was the intention of the blockaders to return to that bridge and other bridges. And so, we weren't going to play whack-a-mole with this, because if it was going to take 7 days to clear, the hourly impact, economic and personal, for Canadians of those blockades was enormous and significant. And we wanted to make sure that we ended that threat.
Donc, vous n'aviez pas connaissance du plan, vous n'avez pas été avisé par les services.
You were not aware of the plan, you were not informed by the police officers, and you decided that an Emergencies Act was necessary.
Senator, to be very clear, I was aware of the work that the police were doing, but I'm not briefed on their plan, nor should I be.
Mais qui l'a été? On a l'impression que c'est...
Who was then? We have the impression that no one speaks to one another in that cabinet meeting. No one was informed by the police services that they had a plan and that they could remove the vehicles. One would think that the cabinet was ignorant.
Your characterization is incorrect. Your characterization is incorrect. The police did not at any time tell me that they were prepared to resolve this effectively,
Minister,
and that they
I'm
had the
sorry.
tools to do so.
I have to
I
cut
understand
you
that you spoke with the chief of the Ottawa Police Services and you discussed all the topics you presented, and you did not have any discussion about his plan to free up the city of Ottawa. It's incredible. I have difficulty believing you. You have stated that you did not discuss with the Ottawa Police Services about their plan to unblock Wellington Street.
Police officer for 39 years and a police chief in Toronto, and I know the difference of responsibility. I have great respect for the authority and responsibilities of the police
Oui, mais
chief.
vous avez une décision à prendre
And
comme ministre.
I know that it's inappropriate for me to advise or direct that police chief in any way. I relied on the briefings that I was receiving from our
Non,
federal
mais la
officials, the
question, c'est pas
RCMP,
de leur
about a
diriger
plan.
ou de leur
But
donner des instructions. La question, c'est
The question is to know, do you have a plan to vacate, to free up the city? And then they would tell you, yes, we have a plan. You take a decision, they tell you, we have a plan. Don't worry, Mr. Minister, we will free up the street.
judgment on the facts, and the fact was whether or not they had a plan or not, it had proven to be singularly ineffective in resolving the situation
donc
peacefully.
puis vous avez regardé ça à la télé.
So you also watch it on TV?